which they still do, of course.
Olivia and I have been talking for some time about whether we shouldn't commission an English playwright to contribute a play to the first season at the new National Theatre on the South Bank. And obviously you have to commission these things way in advance, and we both chatted it over and thought that clearly Osborne must be on the short list. And at this party, Olivia said to me, look, he's here, why don't we take him into a corner and have a chat? And so I thought, splendid. And we went into a corner with John Osborne, and Larry said, tell him what we have in mind. And I said, well, I explained that there would be a new theatre palace rising on the South Bank, and in the first season it'd be nice to have some new English plays, and we'd like to invite him first to contribute one. And I said to him, rather romantically, I said, come and make a bit of history with us. And he looked at us very strangely and said, in that very abrasive tone you can put on, I've already made history. And turned his back and walked away.
Free. Shut up! Hey, I was in one of those big posh hotels in Brighton the other day. Very posh hotels, you know. Who, actually? Port Slade, actually. Anyway, me and my wife and my little boy and me were in one of the great foyer in this beautiful posh hotel. And my little boy came right out loud and he said, hey, Mummy, I want to go to the toilet. And his mummy said, little boy, Dickie, you mustn't say things like that. When you want to go to the toilet, you must say, Mummy, I want to whisper. Oh, little boy said, yes, all right. Yeah. Well, late that night, or rather early the following morning, my little boy woke me up as usual with a swift knock on the whatsits, and he said, Dada, hey, Dada. I want to whisper. I said, yes, my little darling little boy, you come and whisper in Dada's ear. And he did. Thank God he didn't shout. Well... Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, no, really, Charlie. Such an old gag, Charlie. He will do it, ladies and gentlemen. I've got no control over him at all. Oh, it's going marvelously well, Charlie. The audience is just dying with laughter. Shut up! Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Archie Rice is the name. Archie Rice, Mrs. Rice's favourite boy. Now, we're going to entertain you for the next 2.5 hours. Half hours. Woo-hoo! We're going to entertain you for the next 2.5 hours, and you've really had it now. All the exit doors are locked. You're talking about people being locked in. I think it's about time some people were locked up. Why should I care? Why should I let it touch me? Why shouldn't I sit down and try to let it pass over me?
Towards the end, he would get very depressed. And sometimes I'd show up at the Hearst and John wouldn't be around. And Helen would say, he's in a mood today. And I might not see him for a day. And then he'd show up and he'd be really low and very, very fed up. Almost kind of monosyllabic, which was very, very unusual for him.
You're a long time date like my old pal Fred. So why, oh why should I bother to?
It's a lonely life. I don't think writers see the world as a place that's just full of joy and happiness. The pain and the suffering that they have comes out in their writing. I think it's what made him part of who he was as an artist. I mean, his black moods were really profound. I think he cut himself off from everyone when he was in one. They were really, I mean, Helena said, terrible, and would go on for a long time and would render him unable to move.
If they see that you're blue, they'll look down on you. So why, oh, why should I bother to care? Thank God I'm no more. Why, oh, why should I bother to care?
hostile reception on most of the professional theatre people, which naturally with theatre people quickly melted away. I mean, they're the armies that have changed sides the most. I mean, Larry Olivier came to see Look Back in Anger and hated it, and within a month was asking for John Osborne to write him a part, and was the first to join the bandwagon.
Hey, what's the matter? Are you feeling the cold up there? Well, before I do go, ladies and gentlemen, I should just like to tell you a little story about a little ordinary man like you and me. Well, he wakes up, you see, and he finds himself in paradise. And he looks up, you see, and he sees a fellow standing next to him. Well, it seems this fellow's a saint or something. Anyway, he's on the welcoming committee. And he says to him, the saint says to him, he says, well, my son, you are now in paradise. Am I? Says the little man. You are, says the saint. Oh, you're well away. What's more, you have earned yourself eternal happiness. Have I? Says the little man. Yes, you're well away. Don't you hear the multitudes? Why, everyone is singing. Everyone is joyful. Well, what do you say, my son? And the little man looked round at all the multitudes of the earth spread out against the universe, at all the hosts of heaven and all the rest of it. And the saint smiled at him kindly and said, well, and what do you say, my son? Only one thing I can say, said the little man. And he said it. The saint couldn't speak for a moment. Then he threw his arms around the little man and kissed him. And he said, I love you, my son. I love you with all my soul. I have been waiting to hear that word ever since I come here. Well, he's there with his little hook. I can see him. Well, I have a go, don't I, ladies? I have a go. No, don't clap too loud. It's a very old building. Very old. Old. Hey, let me know where you're working tomorrow night, and I'll come and see you.